All right, welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to talk about the additive property of equality. So in this lesson, you're going to learn the difference between an expression and an equation, the definition of a linear equation, the additive property of equality, and how to use the additive property of equality to solve equations. So what we call an expression in algebra is just a collection of numbers, variables, operation symbols, or grouping symbols. Right? So you can see here we have some examples of expressions separated by commas. 3x plus 7, 8x squared, negative 4 times x plus 5. These are all expressions. What we call an equation is simply taking two expressions and setting them equal to each other. Equations have equal signs, whereas expressions do not. So in math, when we talk about doing anything with expressions or equations, we always say that we simplify expressions and we solve equations. One of the most basic types of equations is known as a linear equation. A linear equation contains one variable. We can write linear equations in the form ax plus b is equal to c, where a, b, and c are all real numbers. Note that the exponent of the variable x in this problem, note that the exponent is 1. For all linear equations, the exponent is going to be 1. So if we know the values of a, b, and c, if they're numbers that we know what they are, then it's possible to determine the value of x. And to do that, we're going to use what's called the additive property of equality. Right, so imagine that you and a friend both start off with 5 apples. You then both go to the store and you buy 3 more apples. So you've each added 3 apples to your total. Well, now you both still have 8 apples. Right? You both still have equal amounts because you've added the same amount to an equal amount that you started with. So you both started with 5. You both added 3 to both sides. And you both ended up with 8. Okay, so this is the idea of the additive property of equality. If you add or subtract a number to both sides of an equation, it doesn't change the solution. Both sides are still equal. So let's use that idea and attempt to solve these equations. We want to determine what x is. Well, now we have x minus 3 is equal to 14. Well, we just said by that additive property that we can add or subtract a number to both sides, and it won't change the equation, it won't change the solution. Both sides will still be equal to each other. So we want to figure out what x is, and we have x minus 3. So if we add 3 to both sides, well, x minus 3 plus 3, minus 3 plus 3 is just 0, and so we wind up with x, and then 14 plus 3 is 17. And so x has to be equal to 17. So we added the same number to both sides, and by doing that, we were able to get x equals some number. We're able to solve for x. Let's try this again. We now have x plus 14 is equal to 25. Well, we still want to get x by itself. So to do that, since we have x plus 14, to get x by itself, we want to subtract 14 from both sides. Well, 14 minus 14, that just goes to 0. And we're left with x equals 25 minus 14 is 11. And so we get x equals 11. Remember to always add or subtract the same number to both sides of the equation. Let's try one more. So now we have negative 11 is equal to 3 plus x. Now we want to get x by itself, so we can subtract 3 from both sides. And 3 minus 3 is just 0. And so we're left with x on the right-hand side. On the left-hand side, we have negative 11 minus 3, or negative 14. So sometimes it's necessary to simplify an equation before you can solve it. So the first thing you want to do is start by distributing through all the parentheses, and then combine like terms on both sides of the equation. And then finally, we're going to use the additive property to finish the problem, to solve for x. And so we want to solve this equation by first simplifying. Well, we have like terms. Well, first of all, we have 7x plus 2x is equal to 8x minus 3. And now we have like terms on the left-hand side of this equation, 7x plus 2x. And 7x plus 2x is just 9x. It's equal to 8x minus 3. And so now we want to move the x's to one side and the numbers to the other side. We want x equals something. So to do that, remember we can add or subtract the same thing to both sides. So let's subtract 8x from both sides. 8x minus 8x is just 0. We're left with negative 3 on the right-hand side. 9x minus 8x is just 1x, or just x. And so we get x equals negative 3. So now in this example, we want to distribute first, and then we're going to add our like terms and move everything around. So 7 times 6 plus x is equal to 6 times 2 plus x. We want to distribute both sides of the equation, so 7 times 6 is 42, plus 7x equals 6 times 2 is 12, plus 6x. And so now we want to move numbers to one side and x's to the other. So from here, we can subtract 6x from both sides. We now get 42 plus 7x minus 6x is just 1x. Equals 12. 6x minus 6x is just 0. And so now to get x by itself, we're just going to subtract 42 from both sides. And you get 1x, or just x, equals 12 minus 42. You're going to get negative 30. So let's try one more example of this. We're going to solve by simplifying first. We've got 3 times x minus 5 minus 6 minus 2x is equal to 4x. So we first want to distribute the 3. We get 3x minus 15. And then remember, we have to distribute this negative sign. So we get minus 6 plus 2x. And that's equal to 4x. So now we can combine like terms on the left-hand side. 3x plus 2x is 5x. Negative 15 minus 6 is negative 21. Now we want x's on one side, numbers on the other. And this time we're going to kind of do this both at the same time. We can subtract 4x from both sides. And at the same time, we can add 21 to both sides. 5x minus 4x is just x. Negative 21 plus 21 is 0. 4x minus 4x is 0. And that's equal to 21. So at the end of this lesson, you should be able to tell the difference between an expression and an equation. You should be able to identify linear equations. You should be able to solve linear equations using the additive property of equality.